This is the Tri Swim Coach podcast, where the most difficult leg of the triathlon becomes your friend, leaving your struggles and your competition behind you. TrySwimCoach.com, helping you to laugh at the water.
Welcome back to Tri Swim Coach. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 107. And in just a minute, I have an interview with Andy Harper, who is a Tri Swim Coach member and amateur triathlete on the East Coast of the US and from Scotland. And he's going to talk about a breathing method that I think everybody that listens to this podcast is going to get a lot out of. And I think this is a really special show that we're going to talk about something that I think is kind of the future of endurance sports in terms of, getting off that starting block and really getting comfortable out there, whether it's the swim or just the race in general. This is really going to help a lot of people. So stay tuned for that. And if you are listening to this show, and it is December when I release it, a lot of people ask me, what should I do in the off season? What should I do that I don't have a race for another 5 months, 6 months? I say work on your swim drills. So keep doing those drills. This is a great time to not have to worry as much about how many laps you did, how many yards you did, how many meters you did, and just focus on that technique. And I know I harp on that all the time, and Chris and I talk about it all the time, which is technique. But a lot of times you get into like the season, if you're in the middle of the season, it's a little tougher to get in that stroke work. And you want to stay in shape. You want to be on top of everything. And I think that this is the year, this next year is the time where we're really going to nail down, like, how do you keep that endurance up or build up quickly and also have the technique that you need to get through a triathlon swim and then have the energy left over for the bike and run. So just stay tuned to this show and go to our site, triswimcoach.com. We'd love for you to join us there. Without further ado, here's my interview with Andy Harper. Have a great week. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. Well, I'm excited to have Tri Swim Coach member and age group triathlete from Virginia, Andy Harper, on the show. Andy, welcome to Tri Swim Coach.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Absolutely. So, can you tell us a little bit about where you're from and, kind of how you grew up and how triathlon came into your life?
Okay. So, I'm from Scotland originally. I joined the Royal Navy at 17 to see the world and got based back in Scotland, which is kind of funny, in the submarine service, which is where my story of my fun with the water really starts. I ended up in the US because I worked in the submarine service, as I said, and I got a job with the US Navy for a while. Mm-hmm. And at that point, swimming was not something that I did. Swimming was something that I tolerated. And really, I was more into all-round fitness as opposed to doing something like a triathlon or whatever. In fact, a long time ago, I was a firm believer that running long distances was bad for your knees. Mm-hmm. And how times have changed.
Yeah. So you've been able to go pretty much injury-free?
Since I started running, I've had 2 injuries. One, an IT band problem that I obviously got through with the stretching. And then I got a piriformis injury, which actually sidelined me for my first Eagleman. I'd never felt pain like it. And I ended up requiring physio. And every now and again, even today, I still feel a twinge from it if I sit down for too long. Oh, yeah. So I end up standing. I've got a standing desk at work, so I stand a lot. And it keeps it moving and active,
Yeah, that's awesome. I do that too. I'm standing right now as we do this, as we chat here. I think that's a really great idea. So how did you end up getting into triathlon? Like you came to the US and you've been working for the Navy. And so what was it that inspired you to start doing triathlon?
So I came to the US, was working for the Navy. After 3 years, I left, decided that I wanted to stay in America, mm-hmm. and started an IT company. And IT is not the most exciting of jobs when it comes to exercise. In fact, you find yourself sitting in little rooms and cold places and doing lots of time really sitting on your backside with no exercise at all. And I got to the point where I'd been going to the gym and the likes, and it was really kind of boring, Took up racquetball and that was great, but I really wanted to do something different. And I did my first half marathon. And when I was starting out for the first half marathon, I couldn't even run half a mile, to be honest, without feeling completely and utterly winded.
Wow.
And really, I crossed that finish line having run 13.1 miles and thinking, there's no way I could do anything further than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure lots of people think exactly the same thing, and I was sore and achy, but I persevered and I got to loving it. And I think it kind of grew almost naturally into triathlon. It was just like, I really enjoy running, but hey, look, I see all these people at races from a tri team that I was a member of. And so I joined that tri team. And it was really, really strange because when I got in the water, I discovered that I really, really didn't like it at all. All the swimming that I'd done in the military had been for survival. Mm-hmm. There was nothing graceful or speedy about it. It was about keeping your head above the water, believe it or not, so that you're not consuming any sort of water, and minimizing that exposure as much as possible.
Right.
So that's where I discovered that the biggest challenge I was going to have was going to be the swim part.
Yeah. So you went from being a head up swimmer to having to learn how to swim freestyle with your head down then.
Yeah. And what compounded it was I was in the submarine service, and we do a special training where you do an escape drill. And the escape drills, you start off 7 meters, that's 14 feet, then 28 feet underwater, and you're doing a free ascent, and your face is in water, and you have to blow all the way so that you get the air out your lungs because it's expanding. And then there's a final test where you do a 100-foot free ascent, and you're in a suit, and if your face is in air, you breathe normally. If your face is in water, automatically you have to blow, otherwise you'll end up with an embolism. And so this is trained into you so hard and fast. And once I finally overcame the fact that I hated the chlorinated feeling in my nose, because that was one of the real things that had really got to me, because in these little airlocks that you go into at the side of the tank, they flood it up to chest height, which in average person's chest height is about up to where my nose is, because I'm 5'6". And then they pressurize it and equalize and pull you out into the tank. So that pressurized, chlorinated smell was really claustrophobic feeling, And so whenever I go into the pool, I had that association to start off with. And then I'm putting my face down, and my face is in water, and it took me forever so long to work out that even once I swam any sort of distance, I was so massively out of breath, I was gasping. And it was because I was blowing really hard. I was doing an escape blow, which is, a really, really hard blow, not like the gentle, controlled, soft breathing that you should do when you're doing a freestyle. Mm-hmm. So there was all sorts of things that were really, really going wrong here. And then it was just, it got to the point where I'd overcome it a bit, and then I would go into a race and I'd be fine in the race, and then I'd go back in the water and I'd be like, okay, I'm really back to square one here. What's going on? Yeah. I'd signed up for Lake Placid because I knew I could overcome it. And right up to the day before, actually, I wasn't that sure, all said and done. Yeah. And I got to March, I think it was, of this year. I was absolutely freaking out about the fact that I had to swim 2.4 miles at Lake Placid. And I was like, this is just going to be completely beyond me. I'm having trouble I can go in the pool and I can swim a long distance, but it's not comfortable. I don't know what I could do after it and all of that. That general confidence thing. Yep. And so here in Northern Virginia, there's a company called SwimBox, run by Dominic Latella, and he is a fantastic coach. And I went to him. He's got a really good reputation. And I explained what was going on. And he put me into this little tank, and he set it up, and he got me swimming, and he worked a little bit on form, but we quickly realized that the breathing was the absolute critical thing for me. Mm-hmm. And what was more challenging about the swim box than anything was that there was no ends to get hold of and get your head up out the water and go and get a breath, Yeah. So it really was fantastic training, but I was having problems. And so okay, we actually spent sessions where put your face in the water and I blow gently, and we'd just go through that and getting used to it. And I was still having this crisis of confidence. Yeah. So he got me out the water, And that's when I get introduced to the Wim Hof method.
Yeah.
He asked me if I'd heard about it before, and I really hadn't. And so we sat down and we started doing some drills. And the first one he had me do was just hold my breath for as long as I could without doing anything in front of it. And I did, and I don't think it was that long at all, but it felt like it was absolutely forever.
Yeah.
And so he showed me the technique, rapid breaths, and then breathe out and hold it, or breathe in and hold it. And it was like, okay, and I could let longer and longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
And then we go into the water and I'd feel it. And so, okay, you don't have to take a breath every time you turn your head. Go on, try and keep it longer. And you see, so now you know that you're not going to suffocate.
Right.
Are you, Andrew? You're not going to suffocate. You're going to survive this. And so it was an absolute eye-opener. I actually started feeling much more confident in the water. I didn't think that I could feel confident.
Yeah.
But it certainly came. And it's funny because I'd signed up for Eagleman again this year because I needed to practice before Lake Placid, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I went out and I was really uncomfortable in the wetsuit. So I swam without a wetsuit. And if you look at Eagleman this year, I think I was probably one of the only people in my age group that swam without a wetsuit.
Yeah.
And I actually got around a decent bit swimming properly until I got my goggles knocked and I actually couldn't get them back on and get them back on correctly and stay watertight. And so I went back to my old survival type swimming so that I got out the water in time,
Yeah.
But it gave me a lot of confidence. And then I got to Lake Placid. And it's kind of funny because when you look at the size, the distance and everything, you actually sit there and you contemplate it. I thought, no way am I going to do this.
Right.
Got into my rented wetsuit and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get a breath. I couldn't even do the Wim Hof in it. And I was really getting worried. And a friend actually lent me a sleeveless wetsuit that was probably 2 sizes too big for me. Mm-hmm. And it's really funny because it fit me perfect, it felt like. And I went out in the water in it and I could actually breathe and then I could control my breathing slowly. So, before the actual event, I was expecting to finish at 2 hours 10, 2 hours 20 if I was really, really lucky,
Yeah.
And off I went out. I seated myself in the 2 hour 10 range. And it was all those people who had challenges with swimming at that time.
Yeah.
They were all seated at the same point. And it was kind of pandemonium, to be honest. And I really didn't get into the groove initially. The whole swim was really about 3/4 of the way down the first leg of Placid. It was, I felt incredibly uncomfortable. I was getting knocked, jostled, jarred. I found it hard to get my breathing under control. And I thought, okay, let's think about this. And I started to take a couple of short little breaths and then and really just focused on the breathing because that's what was really making me get my head back up out the water. And then obviously the back end would slide down and just the whole swimming form would go to rats. And so I really just tried to get myself under control and remember all the stuff that had been taught by Dominic, and especially on the breathing side.
Yeah, can you actually explain that a little more, like what exactly the Wim Hof method is and how you did it?
Sure. So the Wim Hof method is a way to really control your breathing, is the way I understand it. A lot of people use it so that they can hold their breath for longer. And basically you take some rapid breaths and then you can take a deep breath in and hold it for much longer once you've got it under control. And it really is, I think it's a case that it just trains your lungs maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know much of the background in that, but the experience was quite novel because I say the first time I tried to hold my breath, it felt like forever and it was a matter of tens of seconds. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure a lot of it was psychological, but the Wim Hof method gave me the chance to actually learn that you could come over that psychological barrier. And so that's what I did when I was out in the water. I started taking in some rapid little breaths, and then a longer breath, and I get my face in the water, and I thought, okay, let's just try and focus on form now because I'm not focusing on breathing anymore. And everything just clicked into place after that. And normally I would be breathing every time I turned my head, so all to one side or whatever. And I suddenly found that I got my breathing that way under control that I was swimming and breathing every third stroke.
Yeah.
And my form obviously was so much better for it. It was really funny because everyone said avoid the cable at Lake Placid. Well, I was in close to it and swimming nicely and comfortably. And the biggest thing that really started shocking me was that I started passing people. I've never passed anyone in the water. And literally my breathing was so smooth and relaxed. I couldn't believe it. And I got out the water for the to go over the timing mat and get back in. And I thought, I wonder if I'm going to be back to the same game. But I thought, no, come on. And I just took a couple of short, sharp, deep breaths. And then a deep one and held. I got into the water and started swimming again and focused again on form. And actually, I was finding swimming enjoyable at that point. I was really, really surprised because it really isn't the area that I like. And then the next thing I remember is literally getting out the water, looking up at the clock and seeing it saying 1:51 and being confused beyond belief because obviously I was right near the end of the number of the people going in. And I was like, what's going on? Something's not quite right here. Yeah. And from expecting to finish between 2:10 and 2:20, I finished on 1:34. And it came down to that breathing and how it just settled down because, by doing the Wim Hof technique and beginning to realize that the breathing's not something to worry about, it's something that you actually will naturally do. It's not something that's going to be that you have to focus on, which is really what I'd done all the way up in learning to swim. Right. I could then focus on other things that were more important. And so, it came down to the breathing for me. That made it, absolutely made it.
This is really awesome to hear because most people that I work with, the biggest problem is breathing. I can have someone that I work with that we go through all the drills and their stroke is just about perfect. And then we start getting into breathing and everything falls apart. And, it takes a long time to figure out to really learn breathing. But it sounds like this method, which I've experimented with myself, I haven't taught it to my swimmers, but just myself and I kind of do it every morning I do about 2 rounds in the morning and then maybe 1 in the afternoon. But can you talk about that? Like how often do you do it and when do you do it? Like what time of the day do you do it before you work out or just in the morning or how does that work?
So I would really normally do it before swimming. I don't do it routinely other days. And probably I should because it would really, I think, help the breathing in every part of the sport, to be perfectly honest. I would do it before swimming, and my swim, unfortunately, gets fitted in around my work schedule, which is kind of crazy. So before swimming, I would do it. And it basically remind me that the breathing part is nothing to worry about, that I'm not going to suffocate holding my breath for 10, 15 seconds, And I actually, the confidence of knowing that you can't get all the air out your body when you're breathing anyhow, that it brought everything together. And it helped me really be able to focus on form as opposed to focus on breathing. And I think that's the absolute key is not having to think about breathing was the thing that it brought to me. Yeah. As opposed to being completely focused on when that next gasp of air is going to occur. Because that's really how it was when I started out and for a long time after I started out.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that idea of focused on just the breathing and like how am I going to get air. Now, I'm curious about how you're implementing. So you said you do it before you work out. Do you do like several rounds of it or just one? Like how do you do it? Like 10 in a row or 20 in a row or?
I'd say a couple of rounds of it rather than anything else. And I know I could probably do more, but it comes down to a case of it's enough that it works that I don't worry about breathing as opposed to me really trying to hold my breath for a long, long time,
Yeah. Yeah. So what would a round of the Wim Hof breathing be?
So for me, I would, the whole concept and the way I understand it is that you do several short, sharp breaths and then you take a breath and you hold it for as long as you can. And I would call that one round. So I'd do 2 or 3 rounds like that. Okay.
Yeah. And have you found the other thing I was wondering about is a lot of triathletes deal with issues with cold water. Have you found that this method, because that's obviously Wim Hof is the guy that he's the Iceman. He's been able to do some crazy things in really cold temperatures, like climb Mount Everest in his shorts and t-shirt. And he gets into these water that's 32 degrees, just about freezing, and it just sits there like it's normal. And so have you found that this has helped with adapting to cold water too?
Yeah, definitely the shock of cold water is a lot less when you breathe this way. Or the fact is that you know how to deal with it because if I get into cold water, the first thing that happens is your breathing goes all over the place. And so this is a methodology to me that I can come back and say, okay, I know what to do. And I know, that I can get my breathing back under control really quickly.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that beginners face a lot. It is kind of a shock when you jump into that cold, but even if it's not that cold, if it's just a little on the chilly side, it can take your breath away really quickly, and then kind of throws you off for the rest of your swim.
Yeah, and I think it was actually an experience like that really threw me into going to swim trainer, because I did an early season open water swim practice.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is crazy. I can't breathe at all. And I was actually talking to the one of the lifeguards or the organisers, and he says, it's very likely it's just the fact that the water's really cold in your face and your body's reacting to that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So now, are you excited to do more races, or how are you kind of using this in your life?
Okay, so as I say, I've been working really crazy hours since pretty much since Lake Placid, unfortunately. But I've signed up for Savage Man next year. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a cold water race. It's a wetsuit required.
Where's that one?
And it's up in Maryland.
Okay.
It's a half iron, but it's a real tough course, certainly tough bike and run course. I'm still sure that the toughest part is going to be the swim.
Yeah.
Because it's cold and it's open water. But I am looking forward to it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And how old are you?
I'm 50.
Okay, great. And so, are you planning on continuing with triathlon for as long as you can, or?
Yeah, it's probably the funnest sport ever. I like the bike. I like the speed of the bike. I enjoy running. Running, became like my therapy. And now that I've got the swim feeling much more under control, it just makes it all round a fun event,
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got, so you're in good company with your fellow countrymen. So I don't know if you're aware of Leslie Patterson.
I am not actually. And
Okay.
It's kind of funny because I was not into sports at all when I lived back in the UK, and I regret it massively.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, she's been on the podcast, and, she's local also, and she's a professional from Scotland originally, and has been living out here in California for a while. But yeah, so something about Scotland, I guess. There's a lot of athletes out there.
Yeah, and it's funny because I go home now, and I live in Virginia, which you're running in the freezing cold or the steamy heat.
Yeah. And
I run back home when I go home and visit, and I think, I wish I'd ran here for years because the climate is so much more temperate. And
oh yeah, it's like ideal.
Yeah.
Nice.
Of course, the swim would be cold and always wetsuit required, not just legal.
Right. Yeah, I was wondering when you were talking about you were one of the only people without a wetsuit at that one race. And could you withstand the cold more, or was it just you just didn't want to deal with the wetsuit?
Honestly, just didn't want to deal with the wetsuit, and it wasn't that cold. It was borderline legal, so it was right on the edge of being legal. And so I was more concerned about being able to finish the swim. Otherwise, it would have been no confidence boost for Placid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So any other tips, whether it's Wim Hof breathing or anything else that you can mention before we sign off here as far as triathlon goes, or just energy or, avoiding injuries?
I really think one of the biggest things that's made a difference for me is eating as well as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell when I haven't eaten cleanly, for example, very quickly, So I think that the diet and nutrition is probably the single most important factor I've found. And then, of course, just having fun. When you stop having fun at it, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. We try to promote that idea too, and with TriSwim Coach and the Fit Triathlete, and definitely nutrition. And when you say eating clean, what does that mean to you?
So I really try and follow a paleo diet as much as I can.
Yeah.
Although I like beer after a race, so that's my downfall.
That was my next question. What's your favorite meal after a race?
Nice cold beer.
Yeah.
But I don't like pizza after a race, and that's one of the funniest things I see. Is there at most after most races is your post-race pizza. Don't like it.
Yeah, and you start to, if you do paleo for a while, or even just low carb, those foods start to become less attractive. And for me, especially after doing some activity, it just doesn't have the appeal that it did when I was younger, and it's interesting what we gravitate to. And then it's like you said, a beer. It's like one thing I was talking about with my friends here the other day is that you have one beer and it can taste really good. But then if you have a second beer, sometimes that second beer doesn't taste so good. Whereas, back when I was 21 or 22 or something, I could have, 4 or 5, whatever, and it was all great.
Yeah, it really is. It's funny, just that first sip as well, even sometimes.
Exactly. Cool. Well, yeah, Andy, it's been awesome having you on the show, and really best of luck with everything you're doing. I'm excited that you reached out to me and you have the Wim Hof experience, because I think this is the kind of the wave of the future for triathlon and just endurance sports in general. I think this is something that can help a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on. Best of luck. And if someone wants to contact you, do you want to give out your email or any way to contact you?
Sure. I can be contacted at acharper@outlook.com. If anyone's got any questions, I'd happily answer.
Awesome. Yeah. And we'll put that in the show notes, and then we'll also have the links to the Wim Hof method and everything, so people can check that out as well. So great. Well, thanks again, Andy.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to another episode covering swimming and triathlon mastery. To get your free online swim clinic, just go to tryswimlessons.com. Give us your name and email, and we'll have session number 1 off to you right away. Begin your process of befriending the swim and laughing at the water now.